Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe show, and today, you guys, it's time for some internet insanity. And I thought we could catch up on 3 different individuals that we have covered before on this show and see where they're currently at. Now, all 3 of them have been through very big controversies in the last year in 2025, and I thought let's catch up and see what is happening. And this kind of sparked because of the new Netflix documentary that came out about Jodi Hildebrandt. So I did watch that, and I wanted to catch up on where her and Ruby were today and bring that up. And then we're also going to go over an article because, as predicted, Piper Rockelle opened her OnlyFans when she turned 18, as I've talked about before on the show, and she made a buttload of money, which questions a lot of things. So we're going to go over an article about that. And then we also have talked about Ash Trevino in different topics, and I thought we could catch up with her because for those that don't know, she is what they would call an inmate hopper, is what she would call herself, and now she is an inmate herself, or was, and was arrested. So if you're interested in listening to those, stick around and we'll jump right in. Okay, babes, welcome back. So first, internet insanity of 2026. Now, if you don't tune in on Mondays at Keeping Up in Canada, I'm just going to update you here. We got a couple more weeks of this show on the YouTube channel here, and then I'm going to be taking an extended long break, probably about 2 months, just to reset everything, reset the show, reset my studio, do a couple things, take a little break, and then get back to it in April. And while I'm going to be taking a break, I'm going to be uploading the podcast that is on Apple, Spotify, and Rumble season 10 that was just aired over the last 5 months. So there is going to be episodes just going to be different, obviously, because it's going to be the podcast show. So it might be something that you've already watched if you watch on Apple, Spotify, or Rumble. And if it's new to you, then definitely jump in. And season 11 will be coming out in April as well. But as mentioned, going to take an extended long break so I can improve myself, improve the show, improve all these things. I just feel like I don't have time when I have a month between seasons. And for those that don't know, it's been 5 years now that I've been doing this, 10 seasons straight with the podcast, 1 year straight for YouTube. So I think the break, the reset, and take some time to learn some new things would be great. But that is not now. That is in a couple weeks from now. So we still have 3 weeks left of the show. So I thought, why not catch up with some of the stories that I've covered in the last year, and specifically one that popped up because there is a new Netflix documentary where people are torn because they said this is stuff they've already seen before and they were hoping for new information. And then some people were saying it was an awful documentary because of what was going on, but that, more information out there, the better. And I kind of lean the same way. Not everyone can have all the different streaming platforms, so maybe they haven't seen everything. And I think even if it is somewhat repeat information, but just from a different point of view, I still think it keeps the conversation going and keeps it front of mind. So I don't think it's bad. So what the fuck am I talking about? I'm talking about Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrandt. So for those that don't know, Ruby Frankie was Ruby Frankie was the mom on 8 Passengers, which was a family vlogger channel that blew up. And then in 2023, I believe it was the year, don't quote me on that exactly, we'll get into it. It was found out that she was abusing her children and a whole plethora of other things. She's now in jail, as well as this other woman, Jodi Hildebrandt. So definitely go back and watch that episode. Definitely go Google and YouTube a little bit more about their lore. But let's catch up if you already know who they are. And if you haven't watched the documentary on Netflix, I say watch it. I mean, of course, it's going to be repeat information if you dived into the information on YouTube. I feel like there's only so much that they're obviously going to be able to share too. But I also think it's always just good to refresh our mind at how disgusting these individuals were and how far people can go and how people can always just be like, oh, well, your family, or that's his mom. It doesn't matter. People can do bad things. So let's jump into this article. Where is Jodi Hildebrandt now? Inside her life 2 years after being arrested alongside Ruby Frankie for child abuse. Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Frankie were charged with aggravated child abuse in 2023. So this was published on December 31st. So I was right about 2023. Jodi Hildebrandt is a former counselor who currently is serving time in prison for aggravated child abuse. Hildebrandt made a name for herself in the Utah community for her therapy services that applied teachings from the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ to people's relationships and parenting. She founded the Connections program in 2007 and quickly became an influential social media creator. In 2019, Hildebrandt started working with Ruby and Kevin Frankie and their 6 children who had risen to fame through their popular YouTube channel, 8 Passengers. However, Ruby and Hildebrandt's relationship took a dark turn in 2023 when Ruby and 4 of the Frankie children moved to Hildebrandt's home in Ivins, Utah. During that time together, Ruby and Hildebrandt allegedly punished and tortured her 2 youngest children. Ruby documented the abuse in her journal and wrote about denying them food, requiring them to do repeated acts of physical labor, and even tying their hands and feet together. And I think that was one thing that went into this. There was a lot of different parts that I had never seen before. So again, I know a lot was repeat information, maybe for most people, but for myself, there was also a lot of new things that I hadn't seen before. And again, just bringing the story to the forefront, I do not think is a bad thing, because again, people like this, sometimes you always think, oh, how could it be that person? They're so loving. They're helping people with their relationships. They're very religious or Christian or, with God, and they're trying to help people. That doesn't mean that they don't have, they're still human beings, right? They still can have their own fucked up shit happening on the inside that maybe they don't even recognize. I think she recognizes it, but I'm not even saying everything has to be in malice, and people just don't even understand that they're being crazy. This level, totally different, not excusable, but you know what I'm saying. In August 2023, Ruby's youngest son eventually escaped and sought help, and Ruby and Hildebrandt were arrested shortly after. They were both charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse and pleaded guilty to 4 counts. Hildebrandt was sentenced to 4 consecutive prison terms of 1 to 15 years. Hildebrandt's rise to prominence, her connections to the Franke family, and her crimes are all revisited in the Netflix documentary Evil Influencer, the Jodi Hildebrandt story, which hit streamers on December 30th. Here's everything you need to know about Jodi Hildebrandt now and what she was convicted of. Hildebrandt is a former therapist who was born and raised in the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ and served a mission for the church before getting married. In the Netflix documentary, one of her fellow missionaries described Hildebrandt as a former beauty queen and basketball athlete who successfully convinced several people to convert the LDS faith. Although Hildebrandt has kept much of her personal life private, she previously shared in speeches that she got married in 1993 and had 2 children with her husband. Her and her husband, who have not been publicly named, got divorced 3 years later. She has also never shared her children's name, but has said that they have estranged from her. Now, I'm not saying that people, like I've just finished saying that therapists are humans. I completely understand that, but I do kind of question, like, you do kind of wonder sometimes not to be like that. Like, she goes into that probably because deep down she wanted to try and heal that, and maybe she thought that she'd be able to mend her own relationship, and then maybe because she can't be happy, she didn't want to see other people happy. I'm not sure what the motive would be to do the things. Like I said, watch the documentary, because again, maybe all this information was out there for sure, but I didn't really realize how deep she had hurt other people. I wasn't really aware that it extended beyond the Franke family. So okay, so let's continue. After getting divorced in 1996, Hildebrandt returned to school and studied English at Brigham Young University before getting her master's degree in psychology at the University of Utah in 2003. During her time studying to be a counselor, she took an interest in sexual deviancy, sexual addictions, and relating relationships and the practices of the Church of the Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ to sexuality. Hildebrandt began making a name for herself in Utah community when she founded the relationship. In addition to marriage counseling, Hildebrandt and Connections also offered parenting counseling to dispose of distortion, ugly lies in order to live in truth, connection, and freedom. Past clients shared that Hildebrandt bent the teachings of LDS Church to fit specific relationship issues and justify the conclusions she came to about a couple's problem. Jodi was good at taking vulnerable people who were coming to her because they were not in a great place in their lives and framing it in a religious context that kind of fit enough with other stuff they've been taught, and then pushing them to do things that I know not a normal therapist would be encouraging people to do. She found a niche and she marketed to it. Jodi was very successful at getting people to give her money. And it's just wild how much money this woman was making. And it just kind of makes me sad again. Like, if you want to go and help people and you're educated and like, you're having a rough time, I'm not necessarily saying you shouldn't, but when you're exploiting people for money, she definitely, I'm not saying again she was exploiting money, but she made a lot of money. And what made me really sad is how it sounded like she was a big part of breaking up a lot of relationships, because and you hear this allegedly with Ruby and Kevin, it sounded like she was always trying to separate them, and immediately the men have to go away and stay away from the family. And I do think that causes a huge wedge, and she's just very, very judgmental, very strict, very rugged apparently, and that and just very aggressive with the people that she was counseling. And so, there's just a lot to question about this woman, in my opinion. He added, Connections offered group, individual, couple, and family therapy, as well as various workshops, online content, and week-long programs. Investigators later estimated that Hildebrandt was earning around $46,000 per month from her individual client work alone. In 2012, Hildebrandt's therapist license was suspended in Utah after she breached client-patient confidentiality. The patient, Adam Steed, later told People in 2023 that Hildebrandt had destroyed his life by disclosing information he told her to Birmingham Young University and the LDS Church. These super sophisticated forms of manipulation that Jodi did just destroyed my life in incredible ways, he shared. Completely controls the relationship during counseling. Her doctrine is that she believes that relationships need to die before they can be reborn. Despite her license suspension, Hildebrandt rebranded herself as a life coach and continued finding success with viral videos, retreats, and workshops. She rose even higher up in the community of Utah when she joined forces with Ruby. In 2019, Hildebrandt teamed up with Ruby after she and then husband Kevin turned to her for family and marital counseling. At the time, the Franke family had already found massive success with Ruby's YouTube channel, 8 Passengers. And even then, I think at the beginning, a lot of people really weren't criticizing them too much, but then it got harsher. And then soon as this took a turn and their relation turned up, it sounds like a lot of people were very much like, okay, now things are getting a little bit intense. Like they were intense before, but there's just like this obviously whole other level here. The now defunct channel followed Ruby and Kevin as they raised their 6 children together in Utah and managed the everyday chaos of family of 8. By 2020, the channel had surpassed 2.5 million followers. However, around the same time, Ruby's followers began to notice a shift in her parenting and her harsher punishments, including taking away a child's bedroom, cutting off the head of one of her daughter's toys, and not bringing her daughter lunch at school. Shortly after the Frankies started meeting with Hildebrandt, Ruby became a staple in various connection classes, speeches, and videos. Ruby and Hildebrandt developed a close relationship and often collaborated on projects with their respective platforms. In 2022, Hildebrandt moved into Ruby and Kevin's home. Later that year, she and Ruby kicked Kevin out of their home, and she encouraged them to separate as well. In addition to their personal lives colliding, Ruby and Hildebrandt also created Mums of Truth profile that took over Ruby's popular Instagram account. The two shared several videos about strict parenting and about setting boundaries with difficult children. Not to be rude, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's super unprofessional to move in with one of your clients. Sorry, I know you're going through stuff, but you're telling me you have nobody, and not to sound disrespectful, but you're making up to $46,000 a month just on your client stuff alone. You can afford your own place. To me, this was just another place where there's a vulnerable woman, I feel like, and she put herself in there. And Ruby is definitely responsible and Kevin for their own things. But I find it very strange. And I wonder if she never moved in, if it would have escalated to the point where it did. I'm not sure. I cannot say that, Ruby would have done this with or without her, because she was already, like I said, on that path. But you always wonder too, like, I don't know. I just think it's super unprofessional. You guys let me know what you think. In 2023, Hildebrandt and Ruby moved 4 of the youngest Franke children 300 miles away to the Hildebrandt home in Irvine, Utah. At the time, Kevin was not in contact with his youngest children. And again, I just think that's a little, I could be wrong. I know sometimes things are hard, but like, don't you want to fight for your children and know what's happening? Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Should he have had some responsibility to know, like, how did the kids get to that state? And again, you can watch the documentaries to show how bad the state was with the kids. Like, for him not to know, is that okay enough? I don't know. Anyway, after Ruby moved her and her 4 kids to the Hildebrandt's home in May 2023, the two of them raised the children together and set strict punishments and boundaries. During that time period, Ruby detailed journals where she would document the abuse she and Hildebrandt imposed on the 2 youngest children. In the released journal entries, Ruby wrote about how 2 of her children were sources of evil who needed to be punished. She wrote that her daughter manipulates me while her son was defiant. She wrote that she punished her son by forcing him to stand in the sun and poke him with a cactus. Ruby further wrote about the times when she denied her kids food, forced them to do demanding physical labor, pushed them into a pool, and stole their water. She later alleged that she had gotten so caught up in Hildebrandt's teaching that she did the abuse as Hildebrandt directed her to do so. You're an adult, Ruby. Mrs. Franke and Mrs. Hildebrandt held Franke's 12-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter in a work camp-like setting. The children were regularly denied food, water, and beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment. The police alleged that the children were prohibited from interacting with others and were hidden in the home when others came to visit. The children were also forced to do manual labor outdoors in the extreme summer heat without shoes or socks. They were similarly forced to stand outside on a cement patio in the summer heat for hours and even days. They were beaten, and the 12-year-old was bound hand and foot after previous attempt to running away. Additionally, the children suffered emotional abuse to the extent that they came to believe that they deserved the abuse. I just fucking hate these women. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be that way, but I mean, they're already in jail, so it's not even alleged. I'm not even court, but I don't know how adults you could be doing that to children. I don't give a flying fuck if you think they're evil. Like, if there's any point in your life where you think your children are evil and you need to do stuff like this, I think please just give them up for adoption to someone better. I think you probably are the evil one. In February 2024, a judge sentenced Frankie and Hildebrandt to 4 years to 4 to 30 years in prison, which was the maximum sentence for their offenses. Due to Utah state law related to consecutive sentence, the women won't serve more than 30 years. During their sentencing, both Hildebrandt and Ruby spoke about their crimes, with Ruby admitting to abusing her children and apologizing to them. However, Hildebrandt did not apologize and instead insisted that she committed the abuse out of love. Hildebrandt is serving out her sentence at the Utah State Correctional Facility, Dell, where the women's general population lives per inmate records. Hildebrandt's crime and controversial background are told in a Netflix documentary, Evil Influencer, the Jodi Hildebrandt story, which premiered December 30th. Although Hildebrandt did not participate in the documentary, several of her phone calls can be heard in which she discusses continuing her mission. The blessing's pretty clear, and it says, "The strongest message you will ever teach is the power of your example," she said in a recording phone call. "What's a better example than to go to prison unjustly and then to go teach the gospel, which I plan on doing." Oh. That's not good. That's not good. Don't do that. Maybe just you have lots of money after you get out of jail. I think you should just chill. Just do some inner work. Just chill. Just be by yourself. I think that's probably best. I don't think you should go run the gospel or try to do anything with anybody. There's my personal opinion. I hope you find yourself and find ways to be better when you come out, but you did not great things to a lot of people, and the fact that you can't even acknowledge that makes me really sad. And the fact that you think you're in jail unjustly. How? Because what you did to those children was completely disgusting and awful, and all the people before that, this was like legit abuse, and the fact that you can't see that is insane. But anyways, definitely go watch the Netflix documentary. I think it's worth watching. I think it's good to refresh ourselves with information, and maybe there's new stuff you didn't know, but you guys let me know what you think. Okay, so let's go to the next story, where I've talked about, unfortunately, again, because this was another show that was on influence. It was the bad influence, the dark side of kid influencing. I'd covered that because I'd watched that Netflix documentary about Piper Rockelle and her mom and how she was very young, and I had believed, and a lot of people had alluded, that her mom was pushing very sexual content out there, being a child at a younger age. And as you know it, she is 18 now. And would you guess that she had an OnlyFans open and made a fuck ton of money? So we're going to go over that article. Okay, so influencer Piper Rockelle, 18, claims she made $2.9 million in her first day on OnlyFans after Netflix docs. So this is from January 3rd. Influencer Piper Rockelle has a lot to celebrate in 2026. On Thursday, January 1st, Rockelle shared a tweet that included a screenshot of her alleged earnings from her first day on OnlyFans. According to the image, the influencer made $2.9 million in just under 12 hours on the adult content platform. The update came after Rockelle teased she would be joining the platform in December. When the clock struck midnight on January 1st, 2026, she shared her link to OnlyFans account confirming she had joined the platform. Rockelle is no stranger to the internet and social media. She sprang to online notoriety a decade ago when her mother, Tiffany Smith, began sharing videos of her content on YouTube. As a teen, she began making content with several other similarly aged influencers known as the Piper Squad. In 2022, 11 members of the Piper Squad filed a lawsuit against Smith alleging they dealt with inappropriate, offensive, and abusive treatment that included wildly offensive and sexually explicit comments. Smith denied allegations and settled out of court for almost $2 million in October 2024, which is a lot of what that documentary goes over, obviously. In May 2024, Rockelle told Rolling Stone her former friends were stretching the truth about their encounters with her mom and her mom's boyfriend, Hunter Hill. "They're not making it up, but they're extending the truth," Rockelle stated in an interview. I was there. I witnessed it every day, and I think they believe what they are saying, but I was there and saw everything. Rockelle then elaborated on whether her mom would say sexually suggestive remarks to the young adults while filming. I don't really think I should answer that yet. I think I should wait until I'm old enough to speak about it, she said at the time. Girl, I'm not trying to be this way, but come on, you guys know what you're doing. You're an adult now, and I'm not trying to be that way. And I tried to be very graceful because I understand, but at the same time, come on, for 1 minute you're saying you can't talk about this stuff, and if it's inappropriate because you're too young, but at the same time, you had a website that was pretty much like the minor version of OnlyFans. Like, why are we buying photos of girls in bikinis? That's just leading up to that, right? Like, this is the pipeline. We tried to say that. So I find that interesting that it's you're not old enough to speak about it, but you're old enough to sell your photos. That's where my confusion is. I think that's a fair question. Okay. But anyways, let's carry on. Rockelle also told Rolling Stone that her mother sold her underwear to men online. Allegations that were raised in Netflix documentary Bad Influence: The Dark Side of Kinfluencing. But that's okay. Oh, okay. The documentary also featured interviews for former members of the Piper Squad, including Sophie Fergie, Corinne Joy, and Reagan Beast, who were all part of the original lawsuit. Obviously, we didn't do anything that was alleged, but sadly, money is a big motivator for certain personalities in this world. We made the decision to put this behind us because honestly, prolonged litigation would be even more harmful and painful to everyone involved, which includes kids, Smith said in a statement before the docuseries was released. Piper is a minor and has already been through a great deal of unnecessary and harmful scrutiny, so we prioritized mental health and made the decision to put this behind us and focus on the next chapter of her career. Rockelle also told Rolling Stones, "You know where I live. Come get me if you want to save me. If you want to save Piper, stop talking, please, because by hurting my mother, you're hurting a part of me. That's something I have to worry about is people coming and trying to take away my mother because they always envied my mom and I's relationship. My father was never in my life, so it's always just been her. She somehow always has a way of making me feel better and making me feel like everything is going to be okay," which that is amazing. And I'm so happy for you, girly. But I think what we have to understand is, and I know you're a busy influencer now and you do a lot of things. And what I talked to her about her for is because not just a documentary, but it's because she went to the Bop House at a very young age, is just like, that's great, and like go on and get your money and it's all good. And I understand that your mom's always been there and your dad wasn't there. There's a joke in there that I'm just not going to touch. But at the same time, you're not going to see that abuse, right? You're not going to think it's abuse because it's love bombing and you are her money maker and she can make so much money off of you. And I'm sure at a time it started very innocently, but I feel like she didn't do anything to protect you from the people you're going to be involved with going forward, and a very clear path that you've chosen at a very young age. And like, maybe you'll be able to retire and not continue down this path. And I mean, I'm not shading women that are doing OnlyFans. I just think at 18, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous position because I think that maybe if you have some spare time, again, like I said, I know you're a busy influencer, just watch some Law and Crime and just see how many disgusting perverts and evil there are in the world. And this is just anybody really in sex work too. I'm not trying to be this way, but like, just be very careful and what you're contributing to and what you're putting yourself in positions of being. Like, there's going to be creepy men that are going to stalk you that are eventually going to try and touch you and be like that in IRL. And could they just do that off of your Instagram and YouTube? For sure. But once you go to that level of giving a different part of yourself, which you kind of already have in like a more PG version of it, like, you're going to attract worse people. That's all I'm saying. I just, yeah, find that super interesting. But it's the same with the like Catch Me Outside girl. She made a fuck ton of money the first day she turned 18 and put her OnlyFans on too. So like, are we surprised? No, but like, it's gross. This world's fucking gross. You cannot convince me otherwise. Okay, let's get on to the final story about Ash Trevino. New details revealed about influencer Ash Trevino's felony warrants days after she's arrested. The creator was arrested and booked in connection with outstanding warrants on Wednesday, December 17th by Venus Police Department, authorities told People. Police have shared new details about the felony warrants for controversial influencer Ash Trevino 2 days after her arrest in Texas. The 36-year-old internet personality, whose full name is Ashley Lopez Trevino, was booked into Ellis County Jail on Wednesday, December 17th, and was later released on bond, authorities previously confirmed to People. Lopez Trevino maintains a combined following over 500,000 on Instagram and Snapchat and frequently draws controversy online, discussing in explicit details her preference for dating inmates. So again, like if you guys don't know Ash Trevino lore, again, just easy Google search, YouTube. There's plenty of people. I've reported on it. A ton of people have reported on it. There's a bunch of stuff from anywhere for her dating very questionable people, inmates, younger guys, stealing guys that her young children had crushes on, bringing her young children to bop houses and not providing proper stuff for her children, and then spending all this money and getting married. There is so much lore, guys. We don't have the time, but just if you don't know and you need a rabbit hole, the Ash Trevino rabbit hole is deep and the lore is large, but let's continue. A Venus Police Department arrest report newly obtained by People reveals that Lopez Trevino had 2 active felony warrants at the time of her arrest. Healthcare fraud between $2,500 and $30,000, and another fraud warrant, both dated November 21st. According to the report, a Venus Police Department sergeant observed Lopez Trevino in the passenger seat of a white BMW en route to another call at 7:50 p.m. local time on Wednesday, recognizing her from prior dealings. After yelling out her name and instructing her to come toward him, the content creator complied without incident, the report continues. The sergeant cuffed Lopez Trevino and transported her to Ellis County Jail per the report. Police Chief James Groom previously confirmed in a statement to People that she was booked later that night. A spokesperson for the Ellis County Sheriff Office previously confirmed to People that jail records show Lopez Trevino bonded out of jail and that bond was $15,000. The office declined to share further information since she had already been released from custody. People had not been able to confirm whether formal charges had been brought. In a video Ash shared to her Snapchat story on December 18th, she appeared to be laughing as she exited the jail. A person behind the camera could be heard saying, "She's free, she's out." The internet personality shared screen recordings of a live stream after her release saying that she had an attorney and plans to travel to a casino later that day. Oh man, yes. She's apparently going to try and fight these. So just found that interesting. I feel like there was a lot of noise about her, and then it quieted down, then it picked up, and then quiet down, and then it was quiet for a while, and now it's picked up again at Christmas. And I often wonder, like, do these things happen? Because we know that celebrities pay and influencers pay for journalists and photographers and all that to come and take pictures and all that. Like, I always often wonder, are some of these things staged? Obviously being arrested isn't staged, but I do wonder how much she was doing with fraud and all that, because there's just so much. She's just one of those people you cannot trust what they're saying online, but I just feel like her lore just continues. So now she went from being an inmate hopper and lover to an inmate herself. So I wonder if she's going to rebrand and now think that's all funny and try and go in that direction and see if someone will date her as an inmate or some shit like that. But anyways, guys, so there's some catch up for 3 different stories that kind of took my mind to different wild places that made me really sad for different reasons in 2025. So there's a catch up for those. As I mentioned, guys, we've got 2 more weeks left, 2 more weeks after this, and I'm going to take the break and you will see the podcast. So thank you again so much if you're listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next episode, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.